Germany, like the troubled childhood which we all try to get past. Now, today's story is about this woman, Susanne Klatten Quandt, Germany's richest woman with a controversial but huge net worth of $24 billion. Oh, by the way, why controversial? Well, a surprisingly huge part of that answer lies in this company, BMW. The German automaker which most people are familiar by this Hitler-like mustache. And if you're thinking, since I mentioned controversy, does this mean that the BMW's grille design was inspired from Hitler's mustache? I mean, obviously that would be a good starting point, and trust me, boy did I try to find some real facts in that context, but Google begs to differ. So I thought, why don't we look into the story of how Susanne Quandt became the richest woman in Germany and what BMW had to do with it. Although the actual period when the Quandts had a serious impact on the history of BMW dates to the 1960s, BMW was founded much earlier than that, like about half a century ago from the 1960s. It all started when a man named Carl Friedrich Rapp founded Rapp Motorwerke. I'm gonna go with Motors in October 1913, which basically manufactured aircraft engines, and it was also the time when the World War I started, so huge orders from the government flooded his company. But sadly, there was an inherent flaw in Rapp's aircraft engines which caused the engine to experience unwanted vibrations. And technically, that's the last thing that you want to see in an aircraft, or it will be the last thing that you will see in an aircraft. So the point is, his business began to fail. Struggling to find his way up, good for him. A huge order from the Prussian army for 600 aircraft planes in 1916 helped him salvage things for a while. And it was also the time when Rapp formed a partnership with Franz Joseph Popp and Camillo Gastiglione to form BFW, that eventually changed to BMW. By the way, spoiler alert, I'm not gonna pronounce these names because I like Germany and I would like to keep it that way. Now, moving on. About the logo which you see today was actually designed in 1917, where the blue and the white contrast depicts the Bavarian heritage, the founders. So as you know, eventually the World War I came to an end, and when BMW was found to be producing aircraft engines for the military, it was barred from further producing one of them. Makes sense. Having no choices with not so surprising move now, BMW turned to motorcycles. But back then, the only reason it got into the motorcycle industry was the end of the war. Also, a similar backstory lingers in its entry to the cars, and I'll get to that in a minute. Now, even though BMW circumstances forced itself into the motorcycle industry, still it created one of the best motorcycles of that time, the R32. Its design was so elegant that it went on to be an inspiration in many aspects for the future of BMW motorcycle, which, as a matter of fact, still exists today, if you didn't know that. Though R32 is old, now it has become more of a collector's item, but still, the motorcycle industry was one of the best things that could have happened to BMW. And I know, you're probably thinking like, when on earth did BMW get into the cars then? Well, it was not until 1923 that BMW really got into automobiles. In fact, the only reason it got into that was because it bought Germany's third largest car manufacturer. But now, even with a new acquisition, BMW only produced cars from borrowed or inspired designs up until 1932. And then, guess what? World War II happened. So BMW went back to making aircraft and motorcycles for the German military. Also, in the early 1940s, when Nazis invaded Poland, most manufacturing plants came under the control of, the Nazi government. So apparently, with Germans now on the front line of military, there were need for laborers, and I'm guessing you know where this is going. Ethically compromised, the Nazis indulged in forced labor on prisoner of wars and on people from Western Europe. But again, the Allied troops went on to win the war, and after World War II, the troops dismantled all of BMW's plants due to its role in producing war materials, and honestly, you know how they did it. Moving on. With hardly any options to keep the company alive, BMW thrived by making pots, pans, and kitchen utensils. So, by 1951, BMW somehow managed to attempt a comeback by producing its first automobile since the war, the 501, but only to desperately fail. Clearly, it got so bad that its future nemesis, Daimler-Benz, was all set to acquire BMW. But wait a minute. How does this anyway related to Susanne Klatten Quandt becoming Germany's richest woman, right? So let me tell you how. While BMW's arch nemesis was about to acquire the company, most shareholders of course conceded to the fairly sensible offer at that time, except for one tricky man. And the truth is, this man was so rich that he stayed low for some time, and unwilling to sell the company, he slowly increased his stake in BMW to 50%. And that man is Herbert Quandt, the father of course, Germany's richest woman, Susanne Klatten Quandt. And in fact, BMW is only a part of her wealth, because during the war and post-war period, Herbert Quandt acquired many companies around Europe, building his empire for his children. And honestly, Herbert Quandt was not the only man who profited from war. His father, Gunther Quandt, was also an integral part of the Nazi government, and he himself is said to have owned over 200 companies, which include one of Germany's largest battery manufacturer, Varta Batteries, and you know what? They still exist today. I mean, that's how big they were, and they still are. Look, the point is, most of us would definitely say that the huge wealth that they possess today is blood money, and probably we all might be right. But being such a highly sensitive topic, I shall not comment about it, and I'm also going to refrain from getting into further details. Although, if you're particularly interested in looking into the history of the Quandt family, there's a pretty good video by Business Casual about it. I'll link it down below. And now, finally, as for the question, what BMW had to do with Germany's richest woman, Susanne Klatten Quandt? Honestly, if you take the history part of BMW, I would say, meh. But if you're talking about the money of BMW, I would say, hell yeah. Let me know what you guys think. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys in the next one.